Commander Sarah Chen stood at the window of her office in the Combined Defense Force headquarters, watching Geneva's early morning mist roll off Lake Leman. The autumn sunrise painted the sky in gentle strokes of orange and pink, reflecting off the crystalline towers of the city's advanced architecture. Her morning routine of reviewing Mars colony reports was interrupted by an urgent message flashing across her neural interface. Commander, multiple unknown objects detected in near-Earth orbit. Sarah's heart rate remained steady as years of training kicked in. She brought up the holographic display, expanding it with a gesture. The objects had appeared simultaneously above every major city on Earth, hovering silently like suspended diamonds catching the light. Their surfaces rippled with colors that shouldn't exist in nature, defying both radar and thermal imaging. "Status report," she commanded, her voice carrying across the quantum communication network to CDF centers worldwide. "No aggressive movements detected," reported Major James Wong from the Pacific Command. "They're maintaining geosynchronous positions. Size estimate, approximately 2 kilometers in length each." The next few hours passed in a blur of activity. Earth's defensive grid remained at ready status, while scientists attempted to analyze the vessels. Sarah coordinated with the Mars and Europa colonies, ensuring they were prepared for any scenario. The entire solar system held its breath, waiting. At precisely 1200 hours UTC, every screen on Earth flickered to life simultaneously. The message appeared in perfect local language syntax, regardless of the device. "Greetings, children of Earth. We are the stellar arbiters, guardians of cosmic potential. Your species stands at a crossroads." Sarah leaned forward, studying the elegant script that flowed across her screen. The translation was flawless, as if the aliens had spent years studying human communication. "Your recent achievements, the terraforming of Mars, the Europa deep-sea colonies, the development of quantum consciousness integration, have drawn our attention. As per the ancient protocols, we offer you the trials of Ascension." The message continued, explaining that humanity would face 3 challenges. Success meant joining a grand alliance of spacefaring civilizations. Failure. The message was diplomatically vague about the consequences of failure. Commander Chen, the message suddenly became personal, addressing her directly. "Your species' records indicate you possess qualities we seek in a representative. Will you accept the role of Earth's champion?" Sarah felt the weight of history settling on her shoulders. The neural interface showed her the live feed of billions watching worldwide, all holding their breath. In her mind's eye, she saw the generations of humanity that had dreamed of this moment. First contact, the chance to prove humanity's worth among the stars. She squared her shoulders and spoke clearly. "Before I accept, I request clarification. What qualities made you choose Earth for these trials?" The response came immediately, but with an unexpected hint of what seemed like amusement. "In the time it took us to send our message, your species attempted to scan our ships with 17 different methods, launched 3 diplomatic initiatives, prepared 24 defensive strategies, and began theorizing ways to replicate our technology. Most species simply wait in fear. Your curiosity remains active even in the face of potential doom. This interests us." Sarah allowed herself a small smile. "Then, as Earth's champion, I accept your challenge. But I have one condition." The alien text paused, as if surprised. "Speak." "We participate as a species. I'll lead, but humanity faces these trials together. We've come too far to abandon our greatest strength, our unity in diversity." The silence stretched for exactly 10 seconds before the response appeared. "Accepted." This variation intrigues us further. "Prepare yourselves, children of Earth. The first trial begins at dawn." As the screens darkened, Sarah turned to face her team. "Well," she said, her voice carrying the quiet confidence that had earned her this position, "let's show them what humanity can do." The next morning, Earth would wake to a very different world. But for now, in the gathering dusk of Geneva, humanity's representatives began their preparations, ready to prove that their species deserved its place among the stars. The Stellar Arbiter's data package arrived precisely at dawn, downloading directly into the Combined Defense Forces quantum mainframe. Sarah sat in the heart of the Geneva Analysis Center, surrounded by Earth's brightest minds as they began decoding the massive information stream. "Dr. Patel, what are we looking at?" Sarah asked, watching as the holographic displays filled with cascading symbols and diagrams. The quantum computing specialist adjusted her neural interface, her fingers dancing through the air as she manipulated the data streams. "It's fascinating, Commander." The package contains historical records of previous trials, but they're encoded in ways we've never seen before. It's like they're testing us even in how we approach the information itself. Sarah noticed something peculiar in the corner of her display, a pattern that seemed oddly familiar. "Maya, can you focus on that sequence? It reminds me of something." Dr. Maya Patel zoomed in on the pattern, and their breakthrough came in an unexpected way. "Commander, this isn't just data. It's a key. Look at how it mirrors human DNA sequencing patterns. They've structured the entire archive to resonate with our biological coding." The team worked through the night, using this insight to unlock layer after layer of hidden information. What they found was both fascinating and troubling. The Stellar Arbiters had overseen thousands of trials across the galaxy, but the success rate was shockingly low. Each species was given challenges that seemed tailored to their strengths, Sarah mused, studying the records. The Zorax, masters of energy manipulation, faced power-based trials. The quantum minds of Epsilon faced computational challenges, but they all failed. Why? The answer came from an unlikely source. Dr. Chen Wei, a cultural anthropologist, noticed something in the successful trials. All three of them. "Commander, look at this. The winners never played to their obvious advantages. They found completely unexpected approaches." Sarah gathered her core team in the secure briefing room as dawn broke over the Alps. The holographic displays showed their findings as she explained their discovery. "The Arbiters aren't testing our abilities, they're testing our adaptability," she said, bringing up images of previous trials. Every species that tried to win through their primary strengths failed. The few that succeeded did so by thinking beyond their natural inclinations. Major Wan raised an eyebrow. "So when they face a species known for military might, they expect them to use force," Sarah completed. "When they meet technological advanced civilizations, they anticipate complex technical solutions," Dr. Patel added, understanding dawning in her eyes. Sarah smiled, a plan already forming in her mind. "But humanity's greatest strength isn't our technology, our military, or even our intelligence. It's our ability to see things differently, to adapt and surprise even ourselves." She brought up the first challenge parameters, which had just arrived. The Arbiters expected them to defend a space station against a simulated attack, clearly anticipating a display of Earth's military and technological capabilities. "They think they know what we'll do," Sarah said, her eyes gleaming with inspiration. "They've studied our history, our conflicts, our technological progress, but they've missed something crucial about humanity." Dr. Wei leaned forward. "What's that, Commander?" "We're at our most creative when we're faced with impossible odds. Throughout our history, every major breakthrough came not from playing to our strengths, but from finding entirely new ways to approach problems." Sarah stood, addressing her team with quiet confidence. "The Arbiters want to see how we fight. Instead, let's show them something they've never seen before. Let's show them how humanity thinks." As her team began preparations for their unconventional response to the first trial, Sarah couldn't help but smile. The Stellar Arbiters thought they were testing humanity, but perhaps humanity was about to teach them something instead. The space station Helios hung in low Earth orbit like a silver jewel against the velvet black of space. Sarah stood in its central command hub, watching as her team transformed the station's exterior in ways that made the Stellar Arbiters observers tilt their crystalline ships in apparent confusion. "Art team, status report," she called through the neural interface. Final pieces are being positioned now, Commander, responded Louis, Earth's leading holographic artist. The quantum-embedded pigments are responding perfectly to solar radiation when the light hits them just right. Sarah watched through the external cameras as the station's hull shimmered with thousands of intricate patterns. They had spent the past 48 hours covering the entire exterior with specialized paint that changed properties based on light exposure. The result was breathtaking. The station now appeared to be covered in endless, shifting fractals that seemed to look back at any observer. 15 minutes until the trial begins, announced Major Wong. The Arbiter's combat drones are moving into position. Instead of mounting defensive weapons or reinforcing shields as expected, Sarah had chosen a radically different approach. The station's exterior now displayed an endless array of watching eyes, each one perfectly crafted to trigger the deep-seated instincts they discovered hidden in the Arbiter's historical data. Dr. Patel, is the quantum interference field ready? Yes, Commander. The field will interact with our artistic display to create electromagnetic patterns that match the resonance frequencies we found in their cultural archives. They won't be able to look away, literally. The first wave of Arbiter drones approached, their crystalline forms catching starlight. As they neared the station, the artificial eyes on the hull began to shift and move in mesmerizing patterns, creating an illusion of depth that worked even in the vacuum of space. They're slowing down, reported Major Wong, surprise evident in his voice. The drones appeared to be hesitating. Sarah smiled. Their research had revealed that the stellar arbiter species had evolved from deep space beings who navigated by reading energy patterns. Their entire civilization was built around the interpretation of light and radiation, which made them particularly susceptible to artistic manipulation of these same forces. Activate the harmonic resonance, Sarah commanded. The station began to pulse with carefully calculated frequencies, creating interference patterns with the quantum-embedded paint. To the Arbiter's sensors, it would appear as if the station was singing in light, each frequency carefully chosen to resonate with their cultural appreciation of beauty. The combat drones halted completely, their weapons powered but unfired. The entire attack force hung in space, caught in what could only be described as aesthetic paralysis. They're transmitting a message, Dr. Patel announced, her voice filled with excitement. The words appeared in their neural interfaces. This is unprecedented. You have transformed a combat trial into a demonstration of artistic mastery. Explain. Sarah stepped forward, her voice clear as she responded. You offered us a chance to prove our worth. We chose to show you not how we destroy, but how we create. The eyes on our hull represent humanity's eternal curiosity, our desire to see, to understand, to connect. The patterns we've created speak in the language of light we found hidden in your records. There was a long pause before the Arbiters responded. In 10,000 years of trials, no species has ever approached combat through the lens of artistic expression. You have defended your station not by repelling our attack, but by making it impossible for us to want to attack at all. The crystalline ships began to retreat, their surfaces rippling with new patterns that the human observers recognized as expressions of respect. First trial completed. Outcome: success through unprecedented means. Humanity has demonstrated mastery of interpretation and innovation. Prepare for the second trial. As the Arbiter ships disappeared into higher orbit, Sarah turned to her team. Well done, everyone. But remember, this was just the beginning. They'll be ready for our creativity next time. Then we'll just have to be even more creative. Li Wei responded with a grin. Deep beneath the Pacific Ocean, in the research vessel Nautilus, Sarah studied the holographic displays of unusual energy signatures detected by their quantum sensors. The celebration of their first victory had barely subsided when Dr. Patel made this unexpected discovery. The signals began 3 months before the Arbiters arrived, Maya explained, manipulating the 3D representation of the energy patterns. They're incredibly subtle. We only noticed them because we were looking for resonance patterns similar to those we used in the art display. Sarah watched the dancing lights in the hologram, noticing how they pulsed in rhythmic sequences. They're coming from the Mariana Trench. Yes, from exactly 10,994 meters down. The depth itself is interesting. It's a perfect mathematical constant in the Arbiter's numerical system. The discovery had led them here, hovering above the deepest point on Earth. Through the vessel's quantum glass windows, Sarah could see the bioluminescent creatures dancing in the darkness. Their natural light shows reminiscent of the patterns they'd created on Heliostation. "Commander," called out Dr. Wee from his monitoring station, "we're picking up something new. The signals are changing." The holographic display shifted, the patterns becoming more complex. Sarah's neural interface automatically began translating the sequences into recognizable data streams. These aren't just random emissions, she realized, her eyes widening. They're records, observations of Earth. The Arbiters have been studying us, but not in the way we thought. Maya nodded excitedly. "Look at this pattern. It perfectly matches human brainwave frequencies during creative problem solving. They weren't just watching our actions. They were studying how we think." "But why reveal this now?" Major Wong asked from his security station. "Surely they know we'd eventually find these signals." Sarah smiled as understanding dawned. "Because finding them is part of the test. Dr. Wee, can you correlate these signals with major human innovations over the past 3 months?" The cultural anthropologist's fingers flew over his holographic interface. "Already on it, Commander. And yes, every major breakthrough in science, art, or technology was preceded by a subtle shift in these signal patterns. It's as if they were nurturing our creativity." "Not nurturing," Sarah corrected, "calibrating. They wanted to understand our creative potential before the trials began. The question is, what does this tell us about the next challenge?" The answer came unexpectedly as a new signal burst from the depths, stronger than the others. The holographic display transformed, showing a series of interconnected patterns that looked strikingly familiar. "That's a neural network," Maya gasped, "but not like anything we've developed. It's organic somehow." Sarah stepped closer to the display, her mind racing. "They're showing us their own thought patterns. The Arbiters don't think in linear sequences like most species we've encountered in their records. They think in interconnected webs of possibility." "Commander," Major Wong interrupted, "we're receiving the parameters for the second trial." The new challenge appeared in their neural interfaces. They were to create a sustainable ecosystem in a controlled environment. Most species would approach this as a purely scientific challenge, but Sarah saw something more. "They're not just testing our environmental science," she said thoughtfully. "They're testing whether we can think the way they do, seeing connections that others miss." She turned to her team, her expression determined. "The Arbiters have shown us their way of thinking not as a guideline to follow, but as a challenge to transcend. They don't want us to copy their patterns. They want to see how we interpret and transform them." "So how we approach this?" Maya asked. Sarah's eyes gleamed with inspiration. "We start by forgetting everything we know about traditional ecosystem design. The Arbiters have shown us their neural patterns. Now let's show them ours." As the Nautilus began its ascent from the depths, Sarah couldn't help but feel that they had just discovered something far more valuable than alien observation posts. They had found a key to understanding not just how the Arbiters thought, but how humanity could think beyond its own limitations. The Arbiter's biodome rose from the Sahara Desert like a pearl emerging from sand, its translucent surface refracting the morning sunlight into countless rainbow patterns. Inside, Sarah and her team stood before 50 acres of empty space, waiting to be transformed into humanity's vision of a perfect ecosystem. Traditional approaches have already failed. Sarah addressed her gathered team of scientists, artists, and engineers. The Arbiter's records showed us that rigid, perfectly balanced systems always collapse. We need to embrace chaos, controlled chaos. Dr. Isabella Rodriguez, Earth's leading expert in evolutionary biology, stepped forward with a holographic display of their planned system. "We're calling it the Quantum Garden. Instead of creating a fixed ecosystem, We're designing one that evolves in real time. The team began their work as the Arbiters observed from their crystalline ships above. Instead of planting in organized sections, they scattered seeds in seemingly random patterns that actually followed the mathematical sequences they discovered in the Mariana Trench signals. Releasing the first wave of microorganisms, announced Dr. Patel, monitoring the quantum computers that tracked every microscopic change in the environment. Billions of specially engineered bacteria and fungi began their work, creating complex soil networks that pulsed with bioluminescent patterns. The Arbiter's message appeared in their neural interfaces. Your approach appears chaotic. Previous species focused on perfect balance and order. Sarah smiled as she responded. Life itself began in chaos. Order emerged naturally, but never perfectly. That's its beauty. Hours passed as their garden took shape. Plants grew at accelerated rates, guided by quantum-enhanced photosynthesis. But unlike traditional gardens, this one seemed to dance. Plants shifted and moved, responding to complex algorithms that mimicked natural selection over centuries. First signs of stress appearing in Sector 7, Maya reported, watching the data streams. Several plants began to wither, and for a moment, it seemed their unconventional approach had failed. But Sarah remained calm. Watch, she said to the observing arbiters. The dying plants released chemical signals that triggered unexpected mutations in neighboring species. New plants emerged, combining traits in ways that shouldn't have been possible. The garden wasn't just adapting, it was evolving in real time. The system is approaching what traditional ecology would consider collapse, noted one of the arbiter observers. Yet it continues to function. Explain. Dr. Rodriguez stepped forward. We designed it to fail in small ways constantly. Each minor collapse creates opportunities for innovation. Just like humanity's history, our greatest achievements often emerged from our greatest challenges. The garden continued its dance of creation and destruction. Flowers bloomed with petals that adjusted their color based on available nutrients. Trees developed leaves that could transform between broad and needle-like forms depending on moisture levels. The entire ecosystem pulsed with a living intelligence that merged natural evolution with human creativity. What you're witnessing, Sarah explained to the arbiters, is not a perfect system, but a perfectly adaptable one. We created an ecosystem that doesn't just survive change, it thrives on it. As the final hours of the trial approached, something unexpected happened. The garden began producing its own light, a soft bioluminescence that rippled through the entire dome in patterns matching the arbiters' neural networks they discovered in the ocean depths. Your ecosystem is communicating. The arbiter's message carried a tone of surprise. Sarah nodded. We incorporated the patterns of your thought processes into its basic design, not to copy them, but to show that we understand them. This garden doesn't just sustain life, it celebrates it. The dome filled with a symphony of light and life, each species contributing to a complex dance of survival and transformation. What had begun as a test of ecological engineering had become a demonstration of humanity's deepest insight, that true sustainability comes not from rigid perfection, but from embracing change itself. Second trial completed, the arbiters announced. Outcome: success through unprecedented integration of chaos and order. Prepare for the final trial. Sarah looked at her team with pride. They had proven once again that humanity's greatest strength lay not in creating perfect systems, but in designing ones that could grow, adapt, and evolve beyond their original purpose. In the heart of the Combined Defense Force headquarters, Sarah studied the final challenge with growing fascination. The holographic display showed a massive structure floating in Earth's orbit, a bridge between dimensions, the arbiters had called it. The task seemed impossible at first glance: create a connection between normal space and what the arbiters termed possibility space. They're not just testing our engineering capabilities, Maya observed, analyzing the quantum readings. This is something else entirely. Sarah nodded, remembering the patterns they'd discovered in the ocean depths. Look at these specifications. The bridge isn't meant to be purely physical. It's meant to connect different ways of thinking. Dr. Wee had been unusually quiet, studying the ancient records they'd decoded. "Commander, I found something interesting in the archives. Every species that attempted this challenge tried to build it using their most advanced technology. They all failed." "Show me the failure points," Sarah requested, watching as the holographic display highlighted identical stress patterns across different alien attempts. They all broke at exactly the same spot, but for different reasons. Maya's eyes widened as she overlaid the quantum frequency patterns they'd discovered in the Mariana Trench. The breaking point, it matches the resonance frequency of consciousness itself. They weren't testing construction skills at all. Sarah smiled as understanding dawned. They want to see if we can bridge the gap between different types of consciousness. Not just between species, but between different ways of perceiving reality. The team gathered around as Sarah began sketching out a plan in the air, a holographic interface capturing her gestures. "Instead of building a physical bridge first, we start with a bridge of thought. Dr. Rodriguez, remember how our garden created its own neural patterns?" Isabella nodded enthusiastically. "The plants developed a collective consciousness that could communicate with the Arbiter's thought patterns. We could use that principle here." "Exactly," Sarah continued. "Maya, can you modify the quantum field generators we used in the art display to create a consciousness resonance field?" "Better than that," Maya replied, her fingers dancing through multiple holographic interfaces. "I can tune them to match both human and Arbiter neural patterns simultaneously. But we'll need something to hold it all together." "What about the bioluminescent organisms from the garden?" Dr. Wee suggested. "They already proved they can adapt to both human and Arbiter communication patterns." Sarah's neural interface chimed with an incoming message from the Arbiters. "Your construction window begins in 1 hour. Previous species required significant physical resources. What materials do you request?" Sarah's response surprised everyone. "We request only 3 things: samples of the quantum-enhanced life forms from our garden, the art display technology from Helio Station, and permission to access your ship's neural resonance fields." There was a long pause before the Arbiters replied. "This is highly irregular. No species has ever requested direct interaction with our consciousness patterns. Request granted with caution." As her team began assembling their unusual construction materials, Sarah addressed them with quiet confidence. "The Arbiters think they're testing our ability to bridge physical space. Instead, we're going to show them how humanity bridges understanding itself." The next few hours were a symphony of coordination as they built something entirely new. The quantum-enhanced organisms grew in spiraling patterns, their bioluminescence pulsing in harmony with both human and Arbiter neural frequencies. The art display technology created fields of light that translated consciousness patterns into visible forms. "Final connection establishing now," Maya announced, her voice tense with concentration. The bridge between dimensions shimmered into existence, not as a solid structure, but as a living, breathing corridor of light and thought. Through it, human consciousness could touch the edges of Arbiter perception, and Arbiter thoughts could resonate with human understanding. "It's beautiful," breathed Dr. Wee, watching as patterns of thought danced across the bridge like aurora borealis in space. The Arbiter's response came not in words, but in a wave of pure understanding that reached through the bridge to touch each human mind. They had built not just a bridge between spaces, but a bridge between ways of being. The consciousness bridge stretched across space like a river of starlight, its surface rippling with the combined thoughts of 2 vastly different species. Sarah stood in the control center, watching as human and Arbiter consciousness patterns merged and danced through the structure they had created. Neural synchronization holding steady, Maya reported, her fingers moving through layers of holographic data. The quantum-enhanced organisms are adapting to each new thought pattern. They're not just maintaining the bridge, they're strengthening it. Through the massive observation windows, Sarah could see the Arbiter's crystalline ships moving closer, their surfaces reflecting the colorful displays of light emanating from the bridge. The final test wasn't just about maintaining the connection, it was about what they would do with it. "Commander," Dr. Wee called out, his voice filled with excitement, "I'm detecting something unprecedented. The bridge isn't just translating thoughts between species, it's creating entirely new patterns of consciousness." Sarah stepped closer to the main display, watching as new neural frequencies emerged from the interaction between human and arbiter thought patterns. It's like a conversation that creates new languages as it progresses. The garden organisms they had incorporated into the bridge structure began producing new bioluminescent patterns, expressing these emerging forms of consciousness in visible light. The entire structure pulsed with colors that had no names in any human language. "The arbiters are sending something through," Maya announced. It's the complete history of every species they've ever tested." The information flowed through the bridge like a river of memory, each drop containing the hopes, dreams, and ultimate fates of countless civilizations. Sarah realized this wasn't just data, it was trust. The arbiters were sharing their most precious knowledge. "They're not just testing us anymore," Sarah said softly. "They're inviting us to understand." Through the neural interface, Sarah could feel the wonder of the arbiter observers as they experienced human consciousness patterns for the first time. They marveled at humanity's ability to hold contradictory thoughts, to dream impossible dreams, to find hope in darkness. "Look at this," Isabella exclaimed, pointing to new data streams. "The bridge is showing us how different species approached the same challenges throughout history. But it's not just showing us their solutions, it's showing us their perspectives." Sarah nodded, understanding dawning. That's what the arbiters wanted all along. Not just to test our abilities, but to find a species that could truly understand others. A species that could bridge not just space, but understanding itself. The bridge began to pulse with increasing intensity, each wave of light carrying new insights. Through it, humans could experience the crystal psalm thoughts of the arbiters, and the arbiters could feel the warm complexity of human dreams. Final analysis completing, Maya reported, her voice filled with awe. "The bridge has achieved something the arbiters call resonance harmony, a state where different forms of consciousness can exist together while maintaining their unique patterns." Through the neural interface came the arbiter's response. "In all our years of testing species across the galaxy, we sought one that could transcend mere communication. Humanity has not only built a bridge between consciousness patterns, you have created a space where new forms of understanding can emerge." Sarah watched as the bridge continued its dance of light and thought, each pulse a testament to humanity's greatest gift, the ability to reach across the void and create connections that had never existed before. "Third trial completed," the arbiters announced, but this time their message carried a warmth that felt almost human. Outcome: success beyond projected possibilities. Humanity has demonstrated not just the ability to adapt, but the power to transform the very nature of connection itself. As the announcement echoed through the control center, Sarah realized they had done more than just pass the arbiters' trials. They had shown that humanity's true strength lay not in dominating or resisting other forms of life, but in finding ways to help different forms of consciousness dance together in harmony. 1 month after the completion of the trials, Sarah stood aboard the Stellar Arbiter's central ship, gazing through its crystalline walls at the glittering expanse of the Milky Way. The consciousness bridge they had created now served as a permanent link between human and arbiter understanding, its shifting colors a constant reminder of what they had achieved together. The transformation has exceeded all predicted outcomes. The Arbiter Elder communicated through the bridge, their thoughts carrying shades of joy that would have been impossible to express in mere words. "Your species has shown us possibilities we never imagined in all our millennia of observation." Sarah watched as holographic displays showed their successes spreading across the galaxy. The art installation from Helios Station had inspired new forms of communication between species. The Quantum Garden had sparked a revolution in ecosystem design on dozens of worlds. And the Consciousness Bridge had opened doors that had remained sealed for countless generations. "We have a proposal for humanity," The elder continued, their thoughts rippling through the bridge in complex patterns. Rather than simply joining the Galactic Alliance as we originally offered, we invite you to help us transform it. Maya, working at a nearby console, looked up in surprise. Transform the entire alliance? That's unprecedented. Precisely why it must be done, Sarah replied, understanding flowing through her. The trials weren't just about proving our worth. They were about finding a species that could help evolve the very nature of galactic civilization. Through the bridge, the Arbiters shared visions of possibilities, worlds where different species could truly understand each other, not just communicate, places where consciousness could flow freely between organic minds and crystalline networks, gardens that could grow between the stars themselves, guided by the combined wisdom of 1,000 species. We accept, Sarah said, her words carrying the weight of humanity's potential, but we'd like to propose something additional. The Elder's consciousness pattern shifted with curiosity. Speak. Instead of simply implementing our solutions, we teach other species how to find their own unique approaches. We share not just what we've created, but how we think about creation itself. The response came as a wave of approval that made the bridge glow with new colors. This is why you were chosen. You seek not to lead, but to inspire. Not to command, but to connect. Over the next few hours, plans took shape. The combined defense force would transform into the Galactic Innovation Initiative, with Sarah as its first director. Their mission: to help species across the galaxy discover their own untapped potential. The Consciousness Bridge will be our first project, Maya suggested, bringing up designs for an enhanced version. We can adapt it to work with any form of sentient thought. And the quantum garden principles could help heal worlds damaged by conflict or environmental destruction, added Dr. Rodriguez, who had joined them via Neuralink from Earth. The Arbiter Elder shared one final insight. In all our years of testing species, we sought one that could pass our trials. Instead, we found one that showed us why the trials themselves needed to evolve. You have given us a gift greater than success. You have given us growth. Sarah looked out at the star-filled expanse, seeing not just points of light, but countless opportunities for connection and creation. Humanity had not just earned its place among the stars. It had helped create a new way for all species to shine together. Let's begin, she said, watching as the consciousness bridge extended its reach toward distant stars, carrying with it humanity's greatest message: that the universe's greatest wonders emerge not from perfection, but from the endless dance of possibility and imagination. As the bridge's light touched world after world, Sarah knew that this wasn't just an ending to their trials. It was a beginning of something far greater. Humanity had shown the galaxy not just how to build bridges between stars, but how to weave dreams across the cosmos itself.